How's it going today, guys? Last week I reviewed the film Spider-Man, which of course is a Marvel property. However, we are now switching back to DC in preparation for Batman v Superman, which I am actually pretty excited for. I can't wait to see that movie because I'm really hoping it's going to be good. But anyway, we're going back in time to talk about Batman from 1989, directed by Tim Burton and starring Michael Keaton, Jack Nicholson, and Kim Basinger. As you can tell, I am a big fan of this film. I have the DVD of it right there. I also found the old VHS tape for this film. Now, there's two things I'd like to say before I start off with this video. For one, this review will contain some spoilers. You've been warned. So if you have not seen 1989's Batman, I highly suggest you do and come back to watching this video. And secondly, I rewatched this film previously to get ready for this review. And I remember sitting there just thinking, this is going to be great because this was the Batman that I loved as a kid. And I know many people are like, well, what about The Dark Knight? What about Batman Begins? In truth, I hadn't seen The Dark Knight until I was 13 years old. And I know that's shocking to a lot of people. But yeah, for some reason, I just didn't see it until I was 13. Nonetheless, though, this was my favorite Batman growing up. Everything in this movie for me as a kid was just perfect. It was the perfect DC film for me. So I was very excited to rewatch this movie and just relive all my Batman nostalgia. But watching this movie again, it does have some flaws. It is not a perfect A+ film as I remember it as a kid. So let's discuss those flaws as well as many of the positives that I have in this movie because I still really enjoyed it. Don't get me wrong. It's just that I do have some issues with the film. This film opens up with one of my all-time favorite sequences because the opening score of this film is truly amazing. Danny Elfman, you are amazing. This opening score is amazing. It completely sets you up for the type of film you're about to see. This was the perfect precursor to his score for Spider-Man. And I think even though the Spider-Man score I think will hold a little bit higher than Batman's, I feel like these two are my top 5 favorites. In fact, this is one of the few things I like more about Burton's version of Batman than Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy, is that I really believe the music is actually better. I love the score by Danny Elfman. It just sends blood down my veins every time. What I liked is that when we're introduced to Gotham City, I feel like this is a real city, a real place. They're not just walls everywhere. This feels like an open environment. I feel like this one accomplished that. Batman Returns did not. It feels like a set, and I'll get into that when I discuss Batman Returns. And I really believed that Burton really captured what it felt like to live in a city like this, where there are bat signings everywhere. People are scared of this bat. They say he drinks blood. They say he can't be killed. All of these things are great because it's like, imagine if we had some kind of watcher or protector who we wouldn't know. He'd be so incognito that we'd always be coming up with rumors. However, what I really liked about this film is that they tried to also examine Bruce Wayne's character as well. And even though I think the Dark Knight trilogy completely did it better, I feel like for this movie, it creates a great split personality. Split personalities are a very common thing that I'm going to use with a lot of these superhero films because they have their alter egos. And I'm going to talk about the split personality towards the end of this review because I also think that, like Spider-Man, this is important. So as this scene plays along, a family gets robbed, and I'll never forget seeing this for the first time. I think I was maybe 9 years old when I first saw Batman, and that first attack against these two guys, I still love it to this day. It sends chills down my spine every time. He grabs the thug and says a line that needs no introduction, you just need to see it.
What are you? I'm Batman.
Now look guys, everything about that line that could have been said has been said. There are even memes and GIFs all over the internet on this. So I'll just put in my 2 cents and say that that is one of the most perfect lines ever written. So the basic plot of this film is Batman, of course being Batman, is up against the Joker, and that's his first big major villain that he's up against, played of course by Jack Nicholson. That's a very easy way of examining what this movie's about. However, it's also a very dark, disturbing, grim film noir, which I will bring up in a second, that examines loose, dirty cops, journalists, case studies, psychological trauma. It just goes under the radar because we're really focused on Batman. And even though I feel like there are too many subplots, and that's one of my flaws that I'll mention towards the end of this review, I do think that some of them are handled incredibly well. The scene that features Lieutenant Eckhart visiting Jack in the abandoned alleyway, the wides, the lack of lights, and their clothes really feel like a film noir scene. It really was amazing. I was surprised going into this movie to find out that there was a lot of emphasis and effort put into the shadows and the lighting. After this, we're introduced to the character of Knox, played by Robert Wuhl, and then of course, Vicky Vale, played by Kim Basinger. And just to get this over as like a side note, Kim Basinger is actually my very first crush in a film, because I remember seeing Batman when I was 9, and I think when I was 11, I was starting to get to that age, you know what I'm talking about. I actually thought that Kim Basinger was like perfect in this film. However, Robert Wuhl is one of my problems with this film. I just don't think he needed to be there at all. He really doesn't do anything of any significance throughout the film that I really cared about. There's nothing that really appeals to me about his character. He's just kind of there to be the comic relief in a way. We then get introduced to Bruce Wayne at his official party. And this is something that I really thought was great, because you set up Batman as the Cape Crusader fighter. However, you have Bruce Wayne as the genius, billionaire, playboy, philanthropist. I know I'm stealing that line from the Avengers. However, Tony Stark and Bruce Wayne are really the same character, just from a different universe. And I feel like Bruce Wayne was great because Michael Keaton is a great actor. Seeing him in films like Birdman and Spotlight really show what a great dramatic actor he was, because previously, and way before Batman, he was known for comedy. He did Beetlejuice, which I really enjoyed, but this was a really serious film for him, and he got so much hate for it. Next, we come to what is, in my opinion, the infamous Axis chemical battle scene. I love it. I know it can get a little bit corny at times, and I know the implausibility of Jack Nicholson falling in a vat of acid and turning into the Joker is kind of silly. I get it, but I've always loved one shot in particular. There's a guy who fires a gun off somewhere, and he walks towards the camera, and then Batman just gives him a back uppercut punch to the face. So of course we know Jack Napier falls into the vat of acid and becomes the homicidal clownish maniac, the Joker. And I mean, that's just great. In fact, he's actually my favorite part of this movie. I mean, yes, he does get top billing for the film, but I really feel like as the Joker, he deserved it. And yes, I know it was topped by Heath Ledger, but still, he was my favorite villain up until Ledger. After being set up by his former boss, he comes back and gets his revenge, and has one of my favorite introduction scenes and shadows of all time.
Jack is dead, my friend. You can call me Joker. And as you can see, I'm a lot happier.
One of the issues I do have with this movie, however, is that I don't really think the relationship between Bruce Wayne and Vicky Vale was all that great. I don't feel like it really was powerful. It didn't really have a lot of resonance with me. I didn't really care about it as much. It just felt like it was very shoehorned in for the sake of just giving romance to films. And you guys know how much I hate that personally. I feel like it's just a complete waste of time just to get a specific demographic to watch the film. And to me, it just felt a little rushed as well, because it's just so tacked on. Another issue I have with this movie is that while the action is incredibly fast-paced, there are a couple of slow moments. Moments where I just really didn't care that much, particularly the newspaper stuff. Now look, I know it's very important to the film where they find out the Joker products, but I feel like certain sequences of this movie involving the newspaper companies should have been cut out, because it just made it feel very slow and kind of weak at the same time, because I don't really care about these characters. They're not really developed. They're barely shown, specifically Robert Wuhl's character. I just really didn't like his character that much. The scene that really developed Bruce Wayne's character to me was when he put the flower next to where his parents were shot. That is so important for his duality and for why he is who he is and why he has a split personality, because that is essential to understanding Batman, because there are two sides of him. One is, of course, Batman, the awesome crime fighter, but the other side is Bruce Wayne, a philanthropist who is conflicted. He lost his parents when he was a kid. He's motivated to do what he does. He's not just this random person who just goes out to fight crime and has stupid freaking nipples on his suit. And once again, I gotta bring up Jack Nicholson. I mean, every scene that he's in, he owns. He owns really every single shot that he is in. He's just so perfectly cast as the Joker. I really love the art gallery scene. That scene is always fun to me. You have the cool Danny Elfman score at the end of it where Batman saves Vicky, and oh my god, Kim Basinger in that scene. It's also in the scene where we get introduced to the legendary Batmobile. Now this thing I love. I still loved watching those sequences to this day, but I love the look of it. It's not a stupid fucking disco ball. This is an actual car that they actually assimilated out of different parts from other cars, including a Chevrolet and even a DeLorean. That's great. Honestly, guys, I've been saving this for a while, but to me, the best thing about 1989's Batman in particular, and with Tim Burton's version of Batman, is that they got the atmosphere right. They got the surrealism right. If Burton and his crew tried to make a very surreal and abstract film, they succeeded. Because rewatching this movie, I was totally into the feel of the movie. Into the feel of Gotham, the feel of Batman, the feel of the entire atmosphere. It was great. It really helped me get through some of those slower parts. And I gotta talk about the scene where the Joker enters Vicky's apartment because, holy shit, guys, that was an awesome scene. It was so much fun to watch the Joker just walk around the room and say one of my favorite lines of all time.
You can't make an omelet without breaking some eggs.
Something I felt kind of odd about the plot of the film is that towards the end of the film, the Joker tries to lay out $20 million in cash, which is terrific. However, the one thing that I found that was kind of confusing was that previously, he poisoned so many people of Gotham with hair care, skin care products that they suddenly just are like, okay, fine, we're gonna go to help the man who basically poisoned all of Gotham. That scene doesn't make that much sense because of what he did previously. If I was the commissioner in this particular sequence, I would have snipers everywhere so that they could take out the Joker at any given moment. I feel like it's just lazy writing because that scene doesn't really make sense anymore. So now we come to the final sequence where the Joker is poisoning everyone again. If you had the snipers, that wouldn't happen. However, it was a pleasure rewatching one of the best sequences, not just in the Batman franchise, but I think of any action, adventure, crime, drama, whatever you want to call it, genre ever. I love the music. I love the feel. I love everything Batman does in this scene. I think it is one of my favorite sequences of all time. It truly was a pleasure to see again. Now, something I've always found funny with this particular scene is when Batman tries to shoot the Joker down, the Joker pulls out his gun, and it's like 20 inches long. I'm like, how did that thing fit into his pants? Did it fumble around his balls or something? It was so weird. And rewatching it, when he pulls out, I'm like, Jesus, how did he put it in there? Following this, we come to the church sequence. Now, this sequence I also love as well. I don't think it's as great as the sequence before, but I do think it's terrific because we get to see someone really beat up Batman. I mean, Batman gets pummeled in this church fight. I didn't remember him getting beat up as much as he did in this particular scene. So as Vicky seduces and distracts the Joker, which was a more suggestive scene than I ever remembered watching, Batman is finally able to get his personal revenge on the Joker, as the Joker tries to tell him, hey, well, you made me, I made you made me first, and there's a lot of I made you and you made me. So they have reasons for hating each other. That's what I like throughout the entire film that I didn't mention before. I like the fact that Batman and the Joker both have personal reasons for hating one another because both of them really created each other. But then the Joker says one line that I thought was just stupid.
You wouldn't hit a guy with glasses on, would you? Huh?
I mean, it just got kind of, that line was kind of silly, you know what I mean? I'm going to replace the word cheesy with silly, because there are a couple of silly moments in this film, and that was indeed one of them. Now, something I didn't like in this scene is when the Joker says, it's time to retire, because of two things. One, you've only been doing this for maybe a couple of weeks to maybe a month. That's not really a long time for a villain's true raid. So I feel like he's just picking it up and wiping the slate clean and hoping no one's going to find him, which that's not the case. And secondly, I feel like the only reason he did have to go out in this film was because they wanted to just get rid of the Joker so that they could move on to the next film and the next film. Because I really feel like you could have kept the Joker in for more than one film. What I liked about The Dark Knight so much is that they left it for pure ambiguity. You don't know if the cops killed him or took him to Arkham. You don't know that. So of course we know Batman survived because he's Batman, and he's able to give Commissioner Gordon the signature iconic logo that will never ever be forgotten. Overall, guys, I had a ton of fun with Tim Burton's Batman. It does have some problems. It is kind of a slow-paced movie at times, but whenever the action scenes come on, it always just gets very fast-paced, exciting, because everything is so great. The atmosphere, they completely got it right. This is a very surreal, disturbing film. There are a couple of sequences that have definitely been beaten by the Dark Knight trilogy that feel kind of outdated in some ways, and some parts of the Joker aren't always perfect. However, Jack Nicholson is terrific as the Joker. I really like Michael Keaton as Batman, and I feel like that split personality is incredibly important because it really shows his duality. He has pure motivation. He has a reason to go against people. He knows who he is. I feel like it's a very good film, and I really appreciate Tim Burton's first Batman movie because to me, it is loads better than Batman Returns, which I will be returning to, of course, review that film coming this weekend. I'm very excited to talk about that with you guys. Talk about some big things that I liked and big things that I didn't like. I'm going to give 1989's Batman an A-. Guys, thank you so much for watching my videos. I appreciate it as always. I would love to hear all those comments, so send them in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching my videos as always. Please click that subscribe button. It will mean a lot to me because you guys are the best people ever. Thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned for my Batman Returns review coming this weekend. Thanks, and stay tuned.